Whoa, beam me up, Scotty. Good morning. Getting hungry? Are you? Apparently I'm all that's between you guys and lunch. Me and my 99-minute keynote. It's a pleasure to be here. Back in January of 1961, President John Kennedy challenged his fellow Americans by saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." A call to action for not only all Americans, but all citizens of the world to step up, to do something for others that maybe are in real need. Almost seems like a quaint notion today. Martin Luther King Jr., in leading the civil rights movement, he didn't just awaken Black America. No, he ignited a sense of justice in the world at large. Mother Teresa embodied the circle of giving, where you just give so much of yourself and expect absolutely nothing in return. Princess Diana, admittedly a flawed human being, gained the world's admiration by attending to the sick and dying of AIDS at a time when the disease was such an unknown, when paranoia and fear were rampant. Her attitude was kindness, caring, and generosity can't be selective. It either is or it isn't. Amazing woman. And her children following in her footsteps. And I'm amazed at what these two young guys are doing, and Kate. They're smashing the stigma of mental illness. They're sharing their own vulnerabilities, their own fears, their own challenges, the struggles they went through, their periods of challenge. And by doing that, they're connecting with everyday men and women, boys and girls throughout the world, saying, yes, it's a challenge. Yes, life is a struggle, but you're not alone. We're in it together. Amazing. We like people like that. They inspire us. They inspire us to do some great things. They get us moving. Contagious action. And yet, in the everyday, sometimes we find ourselves swallowed or sucked into that rabbit hole of negativity, where negative people try to influence us with division, hate, a sense that everything is everybody else's fault or a particular group's fault. Nothing is our fault. We don't control our destiny. And the negativity is so raw, it stings. The type of people that if it was a beautiful day, they'd say it's going to rain tomorrow. Or if a company put together a policy that was really people-friendly and employee-friendly, they'd say they should have done it 10 years ago. Nothing can solve, nothing can satisfy these people. They've been preparing and recruiting negative allies and preparing for Armageddon their entire life. You might say, are you lecturing us? No, because I know that there's not a negative person in this room like that. Because negative people don't spend $225 to come and hear 7 people stand on a stage and tell you how good life can be. They don't do that. But I do think. And yes, the world is changing and we can see it, and frankly, it should scare us. It should. And we've always kind of, people that are positive and have a good outlook and don't feel entitled and feel blessed to be part of this planet Earth, we've kind of just ignored people like that. Oh, that's just the way they are. And this is a shout out. No, no, no. That might have worked years ago, but there's something happening. There's a creep coming in, a negative creep hitting society, and we have to challenge it. You have to push back. When people are holding court and being negative about everything under the sun, I think it behooves us to say, what would you do about it? How should it be? What is the answer? You'll probably find they're rendered speechless because they've never given that much thought to anything other than complaining. Folks, we've talked about the divisiveness out there, the change in the world. People are nervous. People are scared. I don't want to turtle. I think we owe it to ourselves to push back on that kind of behavior and that kind of sentiment. And that in itself is contagious action. I just read a really brilliant book called Dante's Infinite Monkeys, When Technology Meets the Seven Deadly Sins. It's written by a man named Mike Dover, who's a social media expert, lectures all over North America. And in the seven deadly sins, the one I keyed on was the sin of wrath. And Dover called it trolling for evil. And I was really interested to start reading this thing, because he points out that there's so many people sending emails and Facebook and Twitter that are just evil, that are wrong, that are deceptive. There's not a truth about them in the world. But what's worse, not unlike the negative folks, they're looking for other people to pile on. In an anonymous way, people are adding their 2 cents about somebody, a specific person or a groups of people, and everybody just piling on. Piling on with contempt, may not even have met the person, but I'm going to pile on anonymously. He calls it keyboard courage. The only thing you can really call it is cowardice. And sometimes when these people respond and defend themselves, more and more people pile on. And we've seen tragic circumstances on our television screens and the nightly news about young people bullied that they do the unthinkable. Again, we have to stand up to these people. We have to push back. Now, I don't want to rain on the day entirely, because it is contagious action we're talking about. For the most part, should be very positive. But we can't be naive. We can't let a groundswell of negativity envelop us and swallow the goodness in our hearts. We can't. We got to speak out. We got to challenge. And we got to be there for each other. We have to. How many people saw the movie Dunkirk? Okay, just to fill you in. 40,000 British troops on the beaches of Dunkirk during World War II, getting just hammered by the enemy. The leadership in Britain figured they're all going to die. In a desperate attempt, they put out a shout out to all their people in England and the British Isles. They say, if you've got a boat, a trolley, a fishing boat, anything, if you can get over there and save a few of the boys, it'd be great. They thought that this call to action might save 3,000 or 4,000 people. They were hoping. That was their optimistic view. Well, an armada of boats, fishing boats, motorboats, trolleys, you name it, anything that can float, headed there. And 36,000 troops were saved. Changed the outcome of the war. That's positive action. That's goodness at its core. And it was a great movie. But the past few months, we've seen something, and it's not a movie. And frankly, we've never seen anything like it. Nick, can you just show that? Frightening. Quebec, Florida, Houston, the islands, Puerto Rico, Florida. I've walked a lot of the streets there. I know people in some of those communities. But just when you think the worst that could happen happens, and it just rips you apart, the beautiful spirit of human kindness emerges, and you saw neighbors on anything that would float. We saw air mattresses in that little clip. Anything that would float. Neighbors helping neighbors. Strangers helping strangers. The best of humankind coming forward when people are at their most vulnerable. I heard Dan mention that I was a senior leader with Coca-Cola. had a very long career. I know I look a lot younger than I am. But, you were kind of expected. It was, as a leader in a corporate environment, you're supposed to be poised and composed all the time, even when, you know, the crap's hitting the fan, and inside your body's just churning upside down. And you have moments like that constantly in a senior leadership role. A lot of people think it's glamorous. Oh, the boss has got it real easy. I beg to differ. Sleepless nights and all. Well, about 2 decades ago, our company was instituting a new evaluation process called 360 degrees. Most people are familiar with it? Okay. Where you do a self-evaluation, your boss evaluates you, your peers evaluate you, and if you have direct reports, they evaluate you. And if your perceptions are on and you're consistent with how you manage and you work, that evaluation is going to look like a pretty tight ribbon. I was excited. I thought it'd be neat. I had a lot of confidence. I was just ready. So I get the results and I flip to where my team has evaluated me. And I'm going, oh, this is good. They like the fact that I communicate, I'm decisive, I got all kinds of good things. In fact, I wanted to read it over and over again, but I said, no, that's vanity. So I flipped to the one my boss gave me, and I'm going, oh, that's not nice. And my peers, I hadn't seen a slaughter like that since Little Bighorn. It was brutal. They were creaming me. I was devastated. I went home, I didn't even tell my wife. I told my 2-year-old nephew, but that doesn't really count. I sat and sucked my thumb all night and went to bed feeling sorry for myself, and I got up in the morning and I had a plan. A couple of days later, my leadership team was in, my corporate leadership team. I was running the province of Ontario, one of the bigger divisions in the country. And they were in, and I decided to show them my results, warts and all. And they sat there, open mouths, like jaws dropping, like. And I said, thank you for your confidence in me, but you can see I got a bit of a problem with my peers and my boss. I need your help. I'm not sure what the answer is. So they asked if they could have 15 or 20 minutes on their own. I went and had a coffee, and they talked amongst themselves. I thought I was going to come back, and they're going, yeah, we should have said the same things, but they didn't do that. Their kindness came out. They said, you know, boss, you run a big division. And we've had some great results, and we're doing some really good things, and you do communicate with us really, really closely, and that's good. And we have one-on-one meetings all the time that really work. You know us. You're not just concerned about our results, you're concerned about our well-being and all that. Yeah, you're a good guy. Thanks. You know there's a but. But maybe you're running this like a silo. Maybe this isn't Team Ontario, it's Team Silo. And you're missing the point that your larger job and responsibility is you're part of the corporate leadership team for the country. And your peers that are running other divisions in the country, and your boss, they're looking for you to do what you do with us. Communicate regularly. Share your ideas. Lead. I was embarrassed. It was so obvious. But they said, don't be disheartened. It's a real easy fix because you can do it. You demonstrate it with us. You just got to go do it with them. And I had forgotten all about that story, and I was having lunch with a former colleague who's now a senior vice president with a share at mining. And she said, I was just telling people about when you brought that forward at our meeting. And I'd forgotten all about it. And she told me what it meant to her, like that I was vulnerable. And I said, remind me how it went. And she started telling me, like, oh yeah, I do remember that. She remembered I was vulnerable and I was honest. I remembered how nice my team was. It's good to be nice. My dad used to always say to us, kids, it's good to be good. With his Irish brogue. And it is nice to be nice. I wasn't always nice, though. When I was a 15-year-old kid, I was a little smartass. I worked at the Grey Coach bus station on Bay Street. And I was a red cap. You know what a red cap is? Probably most of you don't. It's like a bellhop or a porter. But unlike the Royal York, when you carry 2 bags about 30 feet and somebody hands you $5, you can carry a couple of bags about, seems like 3,000 yards at the bus station. You might get 50 cents. It's a different environment. So I get called down to the Elizabeth Street terminal to help some guy with a trunk. So I bring this big cart down and wheel it down. I'm a pretty strong kid. I'm 15 years old. I see this trunk. I go to lift it up. This guy says, no, 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 no. We have to do it together. So I take a look at him, and I'm thinking, you're a pretty peculiar-looking guy. He's wearing a suit, but it's really threadbare, you know, and it's rumpled. He's clean. He's clean-shaven and everything, but he's got, like, string in his, for shoelaces. He doesn't look very good. He's a pretty unkempt guy. His shirt's in that old song from Chris Christopherson. I think he was wearing his cleanest, dirty shirt. So I'm taking a look at him. Now, I'm 15 years old. What do you think I'm thinking? No tip. No way. Not from this guy. I'm smart-ass. We go to lift this trunk up. I said, what have you got in here, a body? He laughs, and he goes, no, books. Then I laugh. I can't picture this guy reading. He goes, no, seriously, I got books. I said, why? Because they're for my children. He goes, I'm going up to Barrie. I see my children once a month. My wife, he says, their mother and I split up a few years ago. And he goes, I have some serious problems. I looked at him and I didn't ask him much. And I said, oh yeah. So I said, why do you bring the books? And he goes, well, I bring them all books because the first few visits after we split up, all they wanted to do was talk about me. Oh, Daddy, you look tired, you look sick, you look. And he goes, we used to be a pretty happy, successful family, and it all went down the tubes. And all they wanted to do was talk about me. He goes, all I want to do was talk about them. So I had this idea that if I bring them books, then the next time I see them, we can talk about the books that they've read. I said, where do you get these books? He goes, anywhere. I got people fishing them out of the garbage. I go to little bookstores, secondhand places. I get them books. So what if you give them books that are inappropriate? He goes, oh, no, no, I read every one of them. And he had, I think, a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 14-year-old. He goes, I read them all. That way, when I go see them, I can talk about the characters that they're excited about. And when they have dreams, you know, like kids do, I'm going to be a fireman, a policeman, you know, baker, candlestick maker. I'm there, I got it. I know the characters they're talking about. And he goes, they get really excited, and they don't talk about me. They talk about their dreams. They talk about each other, and they're trying to get my attention to tell them about the book that they just read or the books they just read, because I bring them a lot. By then, we've made it to the platform where I'm going to drop them off. And we had talked for a few more minutes, and I kind of felt a little ashamed of myself for being so shallow. But I was 15 years old. Then the guy did something amazing. He says, I can't give you a tip. And I said, oh, that's okay. I didn't tell him hardly anybody does anyways. I just said, that's okay. And he reaches down, he unlocks this trunk, and he flips it open. Sure enough, there's books full. And he's got colored construction paper separating, you know, each kid's allotment. They've got a pile of them. I said, wow. He goes, I think I figured a guy like you out. I think I feel like I know you a little bit. And he goes, reaching for a book. And he hands it to me. He goes, I want you to have this. I looked down and I couldn't believe it. He gave me a book called Young Infield Rookie. And I had the same book at home. In fact, up until that time, I'd probably read that 5 or 6 times. It was my favorite book. And I said to him, wow, why would you think I'd like that book? And he goes, just talking to you. And I said, well, you're a pretty intuitive guy because I have this book at home. It's my favorite book. And I said, but you picked that out for your 14-year-old. I hope he enjoys it as much as I do. Now, this guy, who really, my first impression, kind of a poor soul, I walked away thinking, man, he's rich in spirit. You know, he's got something going. He's figured out, with all his troubles, to connect with his children. He's figured out, with all the headwinds that the poor guy's facing, how to be a dad, the best he's capable of. It's amazing. I get when I think about it. I really do. If you want your kids or your employees or your friends, your family to believe in you, to be the best they can be, They have to see the best in you. Just like that poor guy, the book guy, whatever it is, his kids are seeing the best that he has to offer. If you want people to believe in you, you have to be believable. You have to be credible. And you have to believe in others. And most of all, and I learned this through the 360, if you want people to trust you, you have to be trustworthy. And trustworthy comes from knowing other people and communicating and opening up the dialogue and getting to know people. It's easy to not trust someone you don't know. And that was sort of was coming out in my 360. They didn't really know me, so they'd imagine things. Once they got to know me, all that stuff went away. But most of all, when you do that, when you get people to believe in you, you get people to trust you, it allows you to mentor and to influence, which is a privilege. I started a program years ago for our emerging leaders. And we identified the 12 most high potential entry-level positions, entry-level managers we had. We invited them to come every Tuesday night from 9 o'clock or from 5 o'clock till 9. And subject experts on every aspect of the business, from sales and marketing to distribution, warehouse, public relations, everything, would speak to them. They were going to get a broad education on the whole business. And the two groups kind of split into two types of camps. One was the real keeners. You know, always coming up with have you ever thought of this? What about this idea? And the other ones are a little bit more introspective. Really, they were just intimidated. And it's funny, over the course of the 12 weeks, the keeners sort of settled down a little bit, and these people kind of elevated their game. Because the message we were giving, and every senior leader gave, was big ideas are great. They really are. And aha moments are wonderful. But what really guarantees success is if something is simplistic in its ability to be executed flawlessly. You have to be able to communicate that clearly, especially if you're communicating a program or an idea, and it might be 50, 100, 500 people that are going to implement it. It better be crystal clear. And if it's really complicated, it'll get derailed. They got it. They got it. At the end of the period, we broke them up into teams of 3, and we said, present to us your ideas as a team. And they all did. And they had some good ideas. But the great thing, the common thread was all of their ideas were simplistic in terms of their need for execution. All of them were simplistic so that we could communicate it en masse. So we said, okay, the best presentation, it wasn't competition really, but we said, we've decided that this presentation is going to be implemented. We're going to provide the resources, material, human, financial, but all of you are going to work on it. So all 12 of them worked on a program and maybe involved another 100, 200 people in the organization. And it was really great to see these people scurrying into action and making something happen. And they kept telling us, we feel so lucky that you guys are investing in us and believe in us. We didn't tell them that if we don't invest in you, you're going to go find somebody that will. We didn't say that. We just watched it all happen and unfold, and it was tremendous. And the enthusiasm that evolved from all that told us that they really did believe that if they work together, anything is possible. You know, the one thing we control in any situation, any circumstance, is our attitude and our outlook. And I'm not suggesting when the headwinds are coming at you, when there's a dire situation, that as long as you sing zippity-doo-dah, whistle a happy tune, all your problems go away. Life's not a Disney movie. Wish it was sometimes. It's not. But when you face things courageously and positively and with resolve, and most of all, when you reach out with others for others to help and be part of that process, great things can happen. Wonderful things can happen. You know, the spirit of this day for 10 years has been to challenge and inspire terrific people like yourselves that with a little gentle nudge may go on to do extraordinary things. And Dan sort of alluded to some of those this morning. By leading with conviction, enthusiasm, transparency, authenticity, by believing it down to your core, by living it, breathing it, and owning it. It gives you the right, it gives you the platform. It gives you the moral opportunity to lead other people. And it's a tremendous privilege. For you to be able to lead, whether it's 2 people in your household or 22 at the place of business or 2,200, to be able to lead effectively and to lead other people and help them seek and find their dreams is a huge honor. It's a huge honor. Stay positive. Stay focused. Push back. We have never needed it more than we do right now in the world. This is my 7th time speaking at Day of Hope and Leadership. I want to thank you for allowing me into your heads, perhaps your hearts. It's been a great experience, and I mean this sincerely. In my life, it's been one of my most extraordinary privileges. Thank you, and enjoy your lunch.